1. So I work in the floral department of a local grocery chain in my state. We're always going to be the busiest in fall and spring due to dance season, homecoming and proms, and that can genuinely be really fun. Anyway, there are only ever 2 or 3 people that work in the floral department, and rarely do they work together. Even with dance weeks, they will only work together towards the end of the week. I bring this up because this specific event happened towards the middle of a dance week. It was towards the end of my shift, and I was cleaning things up and getting ready to go before a family of 3 walk into the department. I don't really mind since I still have a bit of time, so I go up to them and say my usual greeting. Hey, how can I help you today? The mom of the family comes up to my counter and tells me that she's here for a corsage pickup. I say okay and go to grab it. Now this lady bought an Admiration Petite corsage, which is a rather tiny corsage with about 7 spray roses, which are just really tiny roses, in case anyone was curious. So by the name and flowers alone, you would assume it wasn't going to be the biggest, but it was still really pretty. She specifically ordered one with hot pink roses, which is more of a magenta in the roses we get. It is still a really strong color, but it isn't eye-bleeding. All of this, I should add, is mentioned on the website. The size, the color, everything. We cannot control the flowers we get, but we always do our best to be as accurate as possible. This lady barely glances at the corsage and says, "This isn't what I ordered." I look at the paper, it says Hot Pink Petite Admiration Corsage, so I tell her this is what she ordered. She responds with, "No, it's too small, it's not the right color, it's hideous." This lady then turns to her son and is trying to dig for his approval. All he says is, "I think it looks fine." Now she's ignoring her son and tries to get her husband's response. His is the same, "It looks fine." I tell her that there are some pre-made corsages in the walk-in cooler if she'd want to take a look at any of those. So she does, and she comes back with like a red double rose corsage, which is a bit more expensive than the Admiration one. "You should just let me take this one because the one you made looks disgusting." At that point I had it. I tell her that we cannot do that, mainly due to the price differences, and I tell her exactly what she ordered. I had to highlight the word petite to show her why it was small. She then goes, "No, that's French for pretty. I ordered a pretty Admiration corsage." Once she said that, I knew there was no reasoning with this lady. I apologize, mainly to the son and father, and tell them that if they want their refund, they need to go up front for it. Floral refunds are actually only done in the floral department, but I needed some time with them gone so I could call our central design store to ask them what I can do. After I finished calling them, I called the floor managers up front and told them what was up. But when I told them that they could send the lady back to floral, they tell me they never had a lady like that come up to them. Since she already paid for her order online, I didn't really care. She just had the thing she paid for, and that was that. Now, a couple days later, the same floor manager told me and the floral manager that there was a complaint and a refund made. It was the same lady. I don't know what the complaint was exactly, but I knew it was from her because on top of her complaint paper was her order form. Since I already told my managers what was up, they didn't really care much. 2. So I was working a regular shift at the movie theater I work at. Nothing to do, as the movies had already started, and there weren't a lot of people, so I was mainly just eating some leftover popcorn and telling jokes to my coworkers. When EM comes up to me, I'm normally not the type of person that fat shames, but this lady was fat. And I mean absolutely massive, like literally fatter than she's tall. And her son was also obese, if not morbidly obese. I'm not going to tell them how to live their lives, but just so you know. This is definitely relevant to the story, I assure you. So EM comes up to me and is absolutely furious. She begins shouting before I could even greet her. The kid was looking physically and mentally angry. "I have a complaint." "What seems to be the issue, ma'am?" "Bought these seats, but they're too small." "Can I ask what you mean by too small, miss?" "We can't even sit normally in these fucking chairs. They're too small, so get us new ones." Now, I could already tell that these people weren't going to fit in the seats, but the point is, we're a pretty small movie theater, and we only have one type of seat. I can give you another spot in the theater, but these are the only seats we have, ma'am. I'm unable to give you a bigger seat because we only have one type of... Then buy one. Excuse me? Ian points at the furniture shop across the road and straight up says, "Well, you're in charge of giving us what we want, right? Get us a better seat." "Ma'am, I can't just leave my duty to buy a chair for you to sit on. Also, I don't know the rules, but I'm pretty sure you can't bring your own furniture into the movie theater. So you expect us to sit in these tiny-ass seats you gave us? I thought you motherfuckers would do anything for your guests." She's starting to get physically aggressive now, and her son is nowhere to be seen. "I can give you tickets to another movie if the experience isn't enjoyable for you, but I can't just buy an entire new chair for you to sit in, ma'am. Would you like to switch your tickets to another movie?" "No, I'll watch this one. But just know that this isn't the last time you guys heard from me." So she walks away, and I think to myself, it's not my problem if you can't fit in the seats, so don't make it my problem. So after she walks away, she takes her son, and she has the brains to buy 4 large popcorns for her and her son, and they go into the theater again. But this story isn't finished, because when the movie was done, and I walked up to the seats with a broom to clean up the theater, and this bitch dumped 2 of the 4 large popcorn boxes she bought all over the floor. And her son probably ate like the other 2, like the assholes they are. And after all this, she has the guts to email my boss to complain about me for not only saying she's fat, but not giving her another seat, being rude, and saying the theater was a mess because there was popcorn all over the place. This woman is officially my arch nemesis now. 3. I spent a wonderful decade as a teen coordinator for a childcare organization, with after-school programs in the school year and day camp in the summer. It just so happened this place was an island that you had to take a plane or boat to get away from. So, small community where everyone knows everyone else's business in the non-tourist seasons. During the tourist season, the population exploded, and you can get lost in the crowds. Often the island is referenced as a small drinking island with a big fishing problem. With it being an island, you just can't get away to go party. Normally I would recommend don't party near where you work just because of these occurrences, but I couldn't do that. The most outrageous occurrences of entitled parents, of which there was a lot, especially wealthy parents, I had was at a brewery and distillery. During peak tourist season, people would bring kids with them, for some dumb reason. The brewery was a very casual affair with lots of outside seating, live bands, and special weekend events. The thing is, though, it was only alcohol, no food. So why bring your kids? Several friends came to the island to visit, and we went to partake in an afternoon of delicious boozes. As I am a flight of beer and a flight of vodkas in, I feel a pat on my back while sitting at an inside bar. Lo and behold, there is little Johnny, maybe 8 years old. Hi, Johnny.
Hi, Angus. Mommy said to come over and say hi.
Okay, cool. Well, it's nice seeing you. You should go back to your parents.
Okay.
2 minutes later. Johnny, what are you doing back? You need to be with your parents.
They said I should hang out with you.
Johnny, it's nice to see you, but I'm with my friends right now. Please go back to your mommy. Johnny runs off. 2 minutes later.
Excuse me.
Oh, yes? Oh, hi, Johnny, and Johnny's mom.
I need you to watch Johnny while we're here.
I'm sorry, what?
We're drinking, so I need you to watch Johnny.
What do you think I'm doing here?
Well, you need to stop because I pay you to watch my child.
No, you don't. I don't work for you, and I am not working right now. I am with friends.
I pay for Johnny to go to the kids' org. You work for me.
I'm sorry, there's a miscommunication. My friends and I are leaving. The next day, Monday, I address it with the director when I go in for my afternoon shift. She says she knows all about it. They called to complain about how unprofessional I was, how I shouldn't be drinking on the clock. They have half a mind to call the police if that's the kind of people the kids' org employs. Turns out, though, the bartender also called a buddy of his, the athletic director of our place, and told the whole story as well. He then went to the director. Even longer story, cut shorter. Their membership was revoked to the kids' org after a long meeting where the mom, who expected an apology, and the director, who said it wasn't happening, said, "If they ever treat another staff member like that, while not at the org, they would have to press harassment charges. The director even made a point of refunding their membership fee of $25. It's such a small amount that it effectively is a slap in the face. This was back in 2007, 2008, roughly. 4. This situation was rather stupid. I'm a man just over 40, and I still have a love for some video games of my youth. Old N64 games like Mario Kart and stuff. But the old game systems I used to play them on are long gone, so I have emulators on my laptop for Game Boy and N64. Considering how much I have to travel for work, these old video games give me something fun to do when I'm at hotels, airports, and even on flights. People do stop to ask me about it when they see a middle-aged man in a suit, gaming away with an N64 controller on a laptop at random places. Yes, some have judged me for it, I really don't care. At the time of this incident happened, I was waiting in an airport on a 4-hour layover before my next flight. I dropped by the cafe near the terminals and got out my personal laptop. I keep a separate one for my work laptop, which is company provided. I got out my USB N64 controller and decided to start a new file on Banjo-Tooie. I wasn't playing the game for more than 10 minutes when a young boy approached me and asked what I was doing. I somewhat awkwardly said that it was an old video game I was using to pass the time. I asked him where his mother was, and he pointed to a dark-haired woman sitting at a table nearby. She was completely zoned out in her phone. I've been the victim of entitled parents and their spoiled children wanting my stuff in the past, especially in airports, and I was getting some serious vibes that this would be more of the same. The airport, for some reason, has lots of these people. I find it less of a risk to just tell them no quickly, in a polite manner if possible, so I asked the boy to please leave me alone as I just wanted to enjoy the game in peace before my next flight. Well, that was the wrong thing to say as he started crying and ran back to his mom, who proceeded to let out her inner dragon on me. I heard the boy crying to her about how I didn't share and made him upset. Well, she stumped over to me and demanded to know why I didn't let her baby play. I didn't really have much of a chance to say anything because she looked at the game on the screen and said a man my age shouldn't be playing little kid games even if they are old. Well, that made me angry and I got up. I'm not a small man. I'm 6'1" without shoes on and 250 pounds. And this woman was around 5'3", I think. So I borderline towered over her. She was pretty intimidated for a second, and we had an awkward stare down. And while that was happening, her son tried to grab my laptop off the table. I stopped him by putting my arm in the way before he could, and that angered the mother. And she yelled at me not to touch her son. Then said I must be a terrible person and I probably don't know what it's like to have kids. I told her I do know what it's like, as I'm a father and have a young son about the same age at home, and he certainly doesn't behave like this. But right then, I was not at home, and I was about to spend a week abroad for work, and playing old video games helped me to relax. Then I chastised the lady over her entitled attitude and acting like I should be catering to her son, because I certainly don't ask or demand people cater to mine. And she should be providing entertainment for her son herself, instead of expecting me or anyone else to do it for her. The lady was not happy I said that, and there was a lot of people around us who heard everything and were giving her judgmental stares. She seemingly started to back off, but took a second to rush past me and sweep my laptop off the table, so hard it hit the wall. It was broken in an instant. That's when I fully lost my temper and yelled at her at near full volume, but still managed to keep myself from resorting to foul language, since children were present. I also would like to point out that it was strictly verbal. I never once laid a finger on her, but the lady actually fell over when I yelled at her, either out of fear or on purpose, I'm still not sure. But she was crying and cowering in the fetal position on the floor. Her son rushed to her aid and called me a mean man for making his mama cry, and then started kicking my shins. Shortly thereafter, airport security showed up, and the lady practically threw herself at them and demanded they arrest me. I sat back down with my hands up and said that I didn't do anything wrong, and there are witnesses all around us to prove that, and there are cameras all over the place that would have captured everything. Well, the lady doubled down and said this all happened because I'm an asshole who wouldn't let her son play in my computer. Airport security ended up taking us both away while they reviewed witnesses and the CCTV. Police were called, and I was asked if I wanted to press charges. I happily said yes, and soon boarded my flight after they let me go. The next day, after I had gotten settled in a motel, I took an Uber to try to see if I could get my computer repaired. The PC tech had to charge me extra to start working on my laptop right away. He called me a few hours later, and it turned out the screen was broken and the motherboard was damaged. Among other broken things I don't remember, but the short of it was my laptop was totaled. So there was no point in trying to fix it. The good news is the hard drive was fine and could be transplanted into a new PC, or just have all the data copied over to a new computer, which I opted for. I paid for a brand new laptop of the same brand, and they switched all my data over to. Though I still had to reinstall and set all my apps back up, which was annoying. I ended up wanting to sue the lady who broke my computer, but she took a smart move in surrendering and paying me back for damages. I was completely ready to file a lawsuit against her, but it gave her the option to repay me, because I really didn't want to take the time to go to court. She ended up talking to me over a video call, crying her eyes out and saying she was just stressed and begging me not to sue her. I spoke with her husband, who was still very angry with her and apologized to me. I got the feeling their marriage was going through a rough patch, but I don't really have any details about it. The husband said he would pay back everything and then some if we just ended this and I didn't sue. I accepted, and they sent me a check in the mail, which thankfully didn't bounce when I cashed it. That all ended last week, and I'm happy to say my replacement laptop works great, and I've gotten back to playing games on it in my downtime. 5. I've known exactly what I want for as long as I can remember. If it's achievable, I go after it. One of those things was a house, specifically a white farmhouse. I've been living in an apartment for 9 months now, and my lease is over on the 12-month mark. I have a couple thousand saved up, and I've been working on my credit for a year. It was a perfect time to start looking, and if I found something I liked, I'll get it. A family friend is a loan officer, and she recommended a real estate agent. We meet up, make a plan, and I get the process started. At that point, I knew I should probably tell my parents to prevent any debates and arguments about it, and they owe me a couple thousand too. I go to lunch at their house every Tuesday, and I work up the courage to bring it up as I'm about to leave. I say, hey, I've been talking to the loan officer and she recommended this agent, and we have started looking for houses. I get no response from either of them, and they don't even look my way. I continue by saying, I know that you guys still owe me a certain amount of money. I don't need it, but it would be extremely helpful in this process. It takes a minute, but my dad goes, well, we have to pay $20,000 in taxes for this quarter. They own 2 businesses, so I can't pay you for a while. My mom still won't look at me. I say okay, and I leave. They never mention it again. A couple weeks later, I am now touring houses. Throughout those weeks, I try to drop hints and try to include them in this process, as they seemed completely uninterested. I go look at my first few houses, and I'm considering putting an offer on one, but I wanted to look at it one more time and see another house first. My sister is also interested in buying a house, but for now, she is just watching the market, and she sends me different ones to check out. This one she sent me I had already asked my agent about, and I gave her a call to tell her about it. My sister answers, and my mom is with her. About 5 minutes through the call, and my mom takes her phone and starts talking to me. At first it's cordial, but then she says my dad doesn't feel included and it's making them upset. I say, well, I didn't know either of you wanted to be included. Now, this conversation should have ended with them asking if they can come along to a house showing. But instead, my mom gets defensive. Now she starts going off. She brings up everything that I do that she doesn't agree with, and how I'm ruining my life and making terrible decisions. This goes on for 2 hours and 45 minutes, and yes, I looked. This has already been such an anxious week for me, and I wasn't sleeping either. This was just the icing on the cake. I was done. I hung up on her because I realized this was getting nowhere. I was done defending my actions and trying to give them the benefit of the doubt. I hung up and didn't talk to either of them for 3 days. Since then, I've kept looking, but I found the one I want. I am moving in on November 18th. Because my dad and I are so similar, we get along fairly well, but we both struggle with communicating. I know how much he wanted to be a part of this, and I basically forced him to have a conversation with me about it. He told me right now is a terrible time to buy a house, and it would be a terrible investment. He went on about how the market is terrible and interest rates are way too high, and how difficult it would be to refinance, etc. for 20 minutes. I was trying to find a good way to acknowledge him, but at the same time I already knew what he was saying and had taken it into account. I finally say, Dad, I know. I have already thought of that, and the market could crash tomorrow or in 6 years. I don't know, and neither do you, so it doesn't matter. What matters is I need a place to live, and I don't want to rent for another year. If I'm able to buy it right now, why shouldn't I? He agreed with me, and since then I have tried my very best to include him in this process. I brought him to the house, and later that night he told me how proud he was of me, and that this is a huge accomplishment. I got my white farmhouse, and I can't wait to make it my home. I don't really have a question, but I wanted to share. I stuck to my boundaries, gave a whole lot of grace, and communicated as best as I could. It was a rough start, but a good ending so far. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to The Impractical Proudness of Parents, Ipop, episode 96, and thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. Before you go, if you could please boop the like button and share the video around with friends and family. Thank you very much. Okay, let's move right along to Hellfreezer's question of the day. Then I'm gonna rest my voice for the weekend because, a lot of recording I just did. Things are feeling a bit rough, so let's see. Hellfreezer's question of the day, and today's question is... Okay, I've asked the opposite, but what is your least favorite Halloween candy? I know some people are going to throw candy corn out there. I've still not tried them. I do need to find a bag and try them. I'll put it on my list of things. I don't think I can buy them locally, but I'll see if I can get them from Amazon. For me, it's going to be unpopular, but candy apples. I like the flavor of the candy. I like apples. I just don't really want to combine them together. Not a favorite thing of mine. I'd rather have those elements separately. But let me know what your least favorites are. And if you want to throw in some old favorites to remind us of course, I'll be happy to take a look at that too. I'm always looking for new ideas. And please leave your answers in a comment below. Okay, and with that, I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourself.